By way of welcome, my name is Oluwakorede Asuni. I'm a senior business analyst. I also sit on the board of the International Institute of Business Analysis, the South African chapter of that institution. And last year, I sat on the committee that organized the organization's annual conference. Potentially, I will be doing the same this year. I supervised a track titled Embracing Emerging Technologies, in which we looked at, we created content around new technologies and how business analysts help businesses adopt new technology. So what's the history of business analysis? I know we've all taken the course, we've all done week 1 and week 2 of the course, and we've come up with some general understanding of what business analysts do. Business analysis can be as old as business itself, if you ask me. If you think of it, the first business ever must have had a CEO or somebody who acted in that capacity, who did some thinking and market analysis before starting that business. But as a formal discipline, we will go along the following lines. 2003, the International Institute of Business Analysis, a non-profit based out of Canada, which moderates the practice of the professional discipline of business analysis by maintaining the standards like the BA competency model, and the business analysis body of knowledge was established by a group of enthusiasts. It's a professional body that you can join today. Membership varies. I think the most expensive membership tier is about $100, and there are depending on the country of origin, there are lower tiers of membership. But we'll get to that in future interactions. In 2005, about 2 years after the association or the institution was formed, the business analysis body of knowledge was published. The first edition was published. The business analysis body of knowledge can be thought of as the Bible or the Holy Quran that guides the practice of the formal business analysis discipline. It is simply a collection of best practices that are encouraged for the practice of business analysis. If you choose to get certified, you will be tested on the content of that guide and other standards that are published by the IIBA. The guide is a set of common sense instructions or guidelines. They are not expected to be applied word for word in practice. You are expected to choose items from it that suits your environment. In 2005, the same year as the BABUK was published, a certification was instituted, and the first certification that was instituted was the CBAP. CBAP stands for Certified Business Analysis Professional. It's the first and it's currently the most recognized business analysis certification in the world. Yours sincerely holds that certification. And in 2011, a second tier of certification was introduced, the Certificate of Competency in Business Analysis. This was meant to serve as an entry-level certification where the requirements, the rigor and the requirements for the CBAP was too extreme to an extent and doesn't allow for entry-level practitioners to demonstrate their understanding of and capacity to practice the business analysis profession formally. And more recently, a second entry-level, a more entry-level certification was introduced, the ECBA entry-level certification of business analysis. This caters for people freshly out of high school. And in 2015, the latest iteration of the BABUK was introduced. That is the third version. I missed, I think the second version was introduced in 2007, if memory serves me correctly. So that is a very short history of business analysis as a formal discipline. But like I said, business analysis is as old as the word business or the practice of business in its true sense. Look, business analysis, like economics, is subject to multiple descriptions or interpretations. I found this cartoon quite illustrative. That's why I'm sharing it. So sometimes it's tough to describe business analysis or its practitioners. One of the questions in the forum today is that what's the difference between management consultants and business analysts? We'll get to that when we get to questions, but those are some of the questions that we grapple with on a daily basis. The cartoon says, "Can your occupation be easily described?" The guy in the white shirt says no. The psychologist, I believe, is asking again, has your occupation been around for a long time? Remember, business analysis as a formal occupation or discipline is only as old as 2003 to date. That's about 17 years. Whereas other disciplines were founded years and years and decades prior. Can you have just one skill and perform your job? You see, the answer is no. As a business analyst, you are not like a watchmaker on an assembly line who just fits the glass on a watch. You do a lot more. You're expected to have a retinue of skills. Are you dealing with just business? Sometimes no. If you look at the tools we're exploring this week, one of them is Pestel. Pestel does not deal only with business. It helps the analyst look at the external environment in which the business operates. And sometimes this is not restricted to business. The P there stands for politics or political environment. The S in PEST or Pestel stands for society or social connections or socials in general, in more general terms. And the T there stands for technology. S stands for social cultural as well, and so on and so forth. So you see that you're not just dealing with the business, the shoemaking business you work in, or the bakery business you work in. Are you dealing with just technology? That's a big misconception. A lot of the knowledge out there is that business analysts sit between business and IT. Whilst that is true in some cases, or in the majority of cases, business analysts do more than that. Is it a well-defined path to get the skills to do your job? Again, no. There are no business analysis courses in universities, as far as I know. There are courses you could take that could lead to, with the certification and the experience, that can lead you to a career path in business analysis. But in the vast majority of situations and scenarios, there is no single course you can take. Unlike becoming a physicist, you take a degree in physics education, applied physics, or applied mathematics. If you want to become a finance person, you probably go to school and study banking and finance, or finance as the discipline. The same goes for economics, the same goes for medicine, dentistry, and the likes. But for business analysis, it's an all-commerce game. Can you describe your job in one sentence? I wish I can. The short answer is no. The psychologist then pulled a squirrel out of his hat and says, yes, you are a BA. So that's prepare for this kind of questions when you begin to practice. There'll be lots and lots of such. So I'll move on quickly. So who are business analysts? Business analysis is gender neutral. You'll find a lot of gentlemen and a lot of ladies practicing business analysis. I like to give this definition for business analysts. It might not be popular, but it's my firm opinion. Having practiced the discipline formally for about 5 years and informally for about 15 years in total. So I see us as strategic business partners to business. And some of the things we do is that we help business understand their needs and separate these from wants. We do this using a myriad of tools and techniques, some of which we have covered, some of which we will cover in the course and in the course of the mentorship program. We specify business needs using a myriad of artifacts, We oversee or participate in overseeing the efforts to develop solutions to meet these needs, and we contribute to or develop tools to measure the effectiveness of the solution or solutions post-delivery. This is generally referred to as benefits realization. And we contribute to supporting the solutions that has been delivered post-delivery. We are called by many names, including but not limited to the following. And as you practice, you would come across a number of them. So management consultants, I think I've answered that question immediately. What's the difference between business analyst and management consultants? Quite candidly, they are one and the same. Whilst different employers will give people with these titles different opportunities for influence, the two groups of people actually rely on the same set of skills, and they perform similar functions within the business. They've been called process analysts, business system analysts, solution architects, data analysts, systems analysts, pricing analysts, test analysts, customer experience analysts, market analysts, and I've created a term, X analyst. Whatever you can put, you can replace X with anything. X equals to whatever you can think of. So technically, business analysis, you'll find that relies more on critical thinking than anything else. So whatever requires you to think critically, to ask yourself a few sets of whys before you start to proffer solution, is potentially an analyst function or position. So I've gone a step further to say that business analysis, that is the discipline, the use of the skills of a business analyst, is the lifeblood of every organization. The business analysis skills are essentially skills that should be possessed by everybody in the business who is responsible for taking decisions that may impact revenue or cost. That's another potentially unpopular view, especially in organizations where business analysts are seen as people who sit between IS, information systems, or IT, and the business. They might potentially not agree with this definition, but this is my position, again, from experience. So some of the tools and skills that business analysis or the analysts, the people in the role, require includes strategic analysis tools. We've covered some of this in week 2. Those are just a few of the potential strategic analysis tools that a business analyst or other person performing that function within a business would require in order to do their jobs. Data analysis tools, we will cover some of this in week 3. Requirements elicitation tools, we will cover some of these in week 3. Again, requirements elicitation is seen by most organizations as the primary function of business analysts. So for those of you who are going to be pursuing certification, we will be doing a lot of deep dives into requirements elicitation tools, methods, techniques, and all of that. Again, critical thinking. We've visited this in week 2. We will revisit it in week 4. Week 4 is potentially going to be an attempt at solving a real life problem for a business. I haven't decided how best to approach this. Perhaps create an hypothetical business that you and problems that you then solve for, or allow you contribute a problem from an existing business that you know of. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And presentation tools. There is nothing you do as a business analyst that sits in your head. You still have to share that information with your stakeholders within the business, upwards with executives, sideways with colleagues, downwards with direct reports, and potentially adjacently with external stakeholders. So these are the tools, techniques, and skills that you weave together into the beautiful practice of business analysis. So some of the artifacts that business analysts create or that are created as a result of business analysis efforts include, but are not limited to, business cases. These are justifications for a change and the expected value from the effort, from that effort, often compared to the cost of the effort. So no project in the world, except in a very stupid organization, is started for the sheer purpose of that project. Majority of the time, projects are started or are initiated because there's a business risk that needs to be addressed, or a business opportunity, a market or economic opportunity that needs to be embraced. So typically your business case will include justifications for initiating a project. So then another artifact that is created by by business analysts is the requirements specification document. Again, for those of you who choose to follow the traditional business analysis path and probably seek certification, this, at some point in your career, you will think that this is the only document that are created by business analysts, because every business wants a requirement specification document. What this document contains is the detail of the identified business needs, and it's organized in a very structured and easy to follow manner, and it forms, or it serves as the entry into the design and development phases of a business change, or into the procurement process that may be required. So this is where so you find elements of the business case here in this document, but more importantly, you would find details of the problem that needs to be solved, described in a way that is not that consumers would understand. Whoever is going to consume the document will understand. Sometimes business analysts are also responsible for designing the solution. Again, you'll find in some organizations that you'll find people with the title business analyst or business analyst who sit within business. Then you'll find some called business system analyst who sits within IT. They rely on the same set of skills. They are just required to focus on different areas of analysis. The business analyst will focus on identifying business requirements, whilst the business system analyst or system business analyst, as the case may be, will look at how existing systems can meet the business needs and make recommendations on what needs to change in the existing systems, including but not limited to developing new interfaces or requesting that new systems be procured. But in a small organization, you might find the same person or the same set of people performing both roles. Earlier on in my career, when I worked for an international non-profit, I performed all of these roles happily. So in some institutions, the business analyst also writes the project charter, which states the agreed changes, expected delivery window, potential cost, and the authorization to commence the work to change the business or to address a business need. Whilst the BA is responsible for creating this document or artifact, it is often signed and issued by senior management. And then we are also responsible for creating the benefits realization tracking system or tool. So in the business case, we have said things like there's an opportunity in the market to build an hybrid vehicle because the millennials don't want to drive petrol vehicles, and technology to build hybrid vehicles are becoming cheaper, and we have a lot of money in our business. We are cash flow positive. We have a lot of money sitting in the bank that requires for us to invest. It might be a good thing to take a stab at building the first hybrid vehicle. We then specify the requirements in the requirement specification document. We bring in our engineers and designers to work with our BAs to create a solution. And then we put the product in the market. 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, we need to know if those products are doing what we expect them to do. And then we do this by using a mechanism or a set of mechanisms generally referred to as benefit realization, where we actually look at the performance of the change or the product, the change or the invention in the market, and see if it matches our business case. Sometimes doing this exposes weaknesses in our original thoughts, and then enables business to make changes to address these weaknesses. Some of the changes might be to stop that project from continuing, or stop manufacturing that product, or reverse that change depending on what has been recommended in the business case. And it could be making subtle changes to what has been planned. So perhaps we've planned to sell that product in South Africa alone, and then realize that the need in South Africa is not as much as the need in Nigeria or in Ghana. And there is a chance that whatever we've manufactured here can be shipped to those places, to those markets, at little or no cost to the business, or at a cost that can be taken care of at the selling price in those markets. And then we do that. In some instances, that is referred to as pivoting. Then we also do process designs or diagrams. So these are the processes are the step-by-step actions taken to achieve a certain objective. So if you find yourself working in the manufacturing environment, you will find that they are process driven. You need to lay a bed, and then put the chassis, and then build the rest of the body of the vehicle, and then fix the wheel, and then paint in that order. You cannot start painting before you add the wheels, or you cannot start painting before you lay the body on the chassis. And there are quite a number of other tools that are too detailed to be described in this session. Are there any questions for me?